Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Aesthetic and Wellness Edge. I'm your host, Bethany Gifford, founder of New Era Intel, where we help medical spas, aesthetic clinics, and wellness leaders scale smarter through AI-driven marketing and business strategies. Today's guest is someone I admire for her blend of clinical excellence and heart-centered leadership, with a new twist on integrating plasma into her med spa. But first, a word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by New Era Intel. At New Era Intel, we help medical spas, dermatology clinics, and plastic surgery practices who are struggling with inconsistent patient retention, underutilized CRM systems, and manual systems that hold back your clinic's growth potential so they can finally increase quality repeat bookings, streamline operations with AI automation, and grow predictable monthly revenue with the right systems and strategy. They're able to create a premium, seamless patient experience while freeing up their team to focus on what they do best. If you would like to take your business to the next level, head over to neweraintel.com to get started.
My guest today is Tal Raizer, the founder and nurse practitioner behind Plasma Medspa, a focused aesthetic practice that has built its reputation on integrity, science, and patient-first care. For years in the ER and orthopedic surgery, is now leading one of the most innovative med spas in the country. Tal's journey is proof that clinical skill and soulful purpose can absolutely coexist. Tal, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, take us back to the beginning. You started out in emergency and orthopedic nursing. And what kind of led you from the hospital into aesthetics?
So I was an ER and ICU nurse for 5 years before I got my master's. Then I went into orthopedic surgery as a nurse practitioner, and I did that for about 9 years before I went into aesthetics. When I worked in orthopedic surgery, I did a lot of injections, mostly for muscle, tendon, joint pain, and I was also able to go into the OR, so I did a lot of procedures, and that was what I like to do the most. I did all of the procedures in my office. So I think I realized that, that part of my job was just the most enjoyable. And I really liked making people feel happy and better when I did those. So I kind of transferred that into aesthetics. Again, as I did in orthopedics, we did a lot of work with plasma again, for joint preservation, tendinitis, things like that. And so when I decided that I was going to go into aesthetics, I really wanted that to be my focus.
That's amazing. I mean, straight out of, the ER and orthopedic surgeon, what kind of prompted you to actually purchase a med spa and start running that?
Yeah, part of it was being naive, I think. um, so probably lack of knowledge, I would say, on kind of how the business aspect runs. I mean, I just assumed that because I was good at my job, that it would be successful. Um, Now, I'm not saying that like people who, are good at their jobs are not successful. I'm just saying it obviously takes and you have worked in marketing yourself, so you know that that's not the only factor when it comes to growing a business. But yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason that I decided to do it kind of on my own is because I really wanted to have a say in the patient experience. When I worked in orthopedic surgery, even though I felt like, we delivered good medical care and stuff like that, I didn't really have a say when it came to the patient experience, how we treated patients, how we followed up with patients, things like that. And I really wanted to have a say kind of from beginning to end on that patient experience because I do believe that the patient experience starts before they come and ends a lot after they leave, right? So, yeah, I think that's probably what made me decide to do it.
Kind of drive me towards it. I know we talked to a few med spa owners that were providers solely before, and they echo what you're saying. Basically, they wanted kind of control over the
Yeah,
whole entire experience. So that tracks for sure. Well,
yes,
you built
yes, absolutely.
Plasma Med Spa kind of around regenerative and plasma-based treatments such as, PRP. PRF, O shots, P shots, vampire facials,
Hmm.
which I love. I love the
Hmm.
vampire facial.
Hmm.
All the things kind of
As do
gaining,
I.
massive traction. But a lot of the times it's kind
Hmm.
of newer to certain practices. So, how can you kind of, or how have you helped clients kind of understand like the power of these specific treatments?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is about education. So I think, and I trained through the Cellular Medicine Association, which actually coined some of these vampire procedures, like they're trademarked. So I actually pay a licensing fee every month to be able to advertise these procedures. Um, so yeah, part of it is just right, like it's a coined word. So there's like buzzwords that people know. And so just educating them on what that really means. And then also educating them on, right, like making sure that they have licensed providers to do these procedures. Um, and, again, part of it is about patient expectation and really setting that up during the consultation and saying, okay, again, like with plasma, right, like there's no defined number, right? Like I can't look at your plasma and say, okay, this is the result that you're going to have. Now, no medical provider can guarantee any result. And if they do, then I say run away. But at the end of the day, right, just making sure that during consultation, I really focus on whether the patient is a good candidate. Because again, my goal, right, is to provide good outcomes for the patient, and really have them understand, right, like what the capabilities are of the plasma procedures versus more traditional procedures.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that you offered so many different types of plasma treatments. Because the vampire facial alone, obviously people, have heard of that, like you said, kind of a buzzword.
Hmm.
But that's usually the only one that they offer. We've come across a little bit
Yeah.
different, now people are kind of integrating the hair restoration, the PRP
Hmm.
aspect of things. So
Yes.
that's kind of a
Yes.
cool new treatment that I've seen across the board.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. I love that one. I've had very good results with that one.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So backtrack kind of on the business side. I mean, you opened your doors a year and a half ago. And it was kind of
Hmm.
in a time when like a lot of people were kind of hesitant to take some major risks. So,
Hmm.
for the people out there that probably started right around the time you did, what was that season like for you, kind of emotionally and financially starting?
Yeah, I mean, I have, I guess, like a bit of an interesting story on that one because when I decided that I was going to do this, again, like I have a family, I have two little kids, so obviously, you make financial decisions based on the information you have at the time. And so when I made the decision to quit my job, invest money, and open up this business, I knew that I wasn't going to be taking an income for a while. And the reason that we were able to do that was because my husband was able to support our family at the time. And a month after I opened my business, my husband lost his job.
Oh,
So yeah, so it has been interesting. I will say that it has taught me a lot as a person, right? Like you have to take things day by day. And again, like, I've this is my first real brick and mortar business. Like I've never owned another business like this before. So everything that I'm doing and learning is by experience. And one of the things that I will say is that what I have learned is that one, it takes time, it takes consistency, it takes determination, right? There are days where I'm like, okay, yeah, this is working, this is gonna work. Like one day I'll pay myself and everything's gonna be okay. And there are days that I'm like I'm just gonna like close the door and walk away and never come back. So and I'm sure these are experiences that most business owners have, regardless if it's med spa or not. So yeah, I think just like self-belief, determination, consistency are probably like the most important. I mean, obviously, like giving good results, good patient experience, like running your business well, things like that matter. But having that determination is and time, right? Like again, no. I mean, I'm sure there are some businesses that are very successful in a short period of time, but I think if you build your business the way that it's supposed to be built, it definitely takes. People tell me 3 to 5 years. So
We see that average about 3 to 5 years.
yes,
And that's kind of the place
yes, yes,
where, if they've done as more right than wrong, they can flourish and expand from there. We've seen a lot,
yes,
kind of close their doors as well around that side. So I think it's super
yes.
important that you are, going the right route. And I have obviously a follow-up questions for you in that aspect. But yeah, it's so common to feel that way you're feeling, and I think your mindset is like perfectly aligned with the whole jumping in entrepreneur wise, especially with a few of the bumps that you guys you know gone through in the beginning. So
Yes.
you're on the right track for sure.
Yes.
I know we had talked,
Yes.
and one of the things you had done is you'd kind of gone through several different marketing agencies before kind of figuring out what
hmm
works for you and your location specifically.
hmm
What's kind of been your big takeaway on that? Because I know that's a big bump in the road for a lot of people.
Yeah, I actually just fired a marketing team that I'd hired. I fired two in the last 2.5 months.
Oh,
So, yeah, I mean, I have not had good experience with digital marketers. I will say that. Now it could just be that I'm picking the wrong people. Or it could be that my expectations are higher than what, I should, our people are offering. I don't know. Um, Now, the things that have worked for my business are building personal relationships. So I do a lot of networking. And again, I'm a sole provider. So I do everything here from cleaning the floors in the bathrooms to the bookkeeping to the injections to the networking to the events. Like it's me. So it's obviously very difficult, right, to wear all those hats and be present in the community. But being present in the community has been one of the things that has helped me the most. So building, personal relationships with other business owners, networking groups, showing up at community events, sponsoring runs, right, things like that have what made a difference for me. And then obviously offering good customer service and then getting return clients and patient referrals, because I would say probably 80% of my business comes from patient referrals.
absolutely. Yeah, we work obviously with a lot of aesthetic practices, and it's not one size fits all, and that's why
hmm
we're so geared that we are not a marketing agency, because there are people out there that they can market you for sure. But it
hmm
really hones in with growth. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? And how can we get there on your budget with your, tolerance, risk level, etc. And we've
hmm
seen the referral network, like you're saying, just really skyrocket. Partnerships,
Yeah.
not necessarily having to go out like yourself running around making, introductions, but being able to kind of connect those with you. So that's great. It's
Yeah.
really good advice for people that are trying to do organic, because sometimes that's all they got right in the beginning, and it needs to be an option as well.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I think, and again, it could just be that within my budget, right, digital marketing is just not effective enough, right? I have heard other people who spend, like 50,000 a month on digital marketing, and that brings them good business. But that's not where I'm at, right? So it's just not feasible. So I'm not saying digital marketing doesn't work. I just, for my specific situation, it's just not what I have found so far to be helpful.
Well, on that note, it does not take $50,000. So
Oh, okay. Good
yeah,
to know.
hopefully nobody's giving you that quote. And for everybody out there, that it's
Yes.
absolutely astronomical unless you have multiple locations all over the nation. Then yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
for sure. Um, well, you're really big on patient first culture. We kind of touched on that earlier. Kind of describe what makes your practice a little different from others in that area.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, I'm trying now to automate some parts of my business. So, through a CRM and, kind of like the 2-week follow-up, the Google reviews, things like that. But I have such a hard time letting go of that personal relationship that I have with my patients, because right now I do it all, right? Like, so at the 2-week follow-up, it's me saying, "Hey, how did," it's not an automated message, right? Like, so I know exactly what the patient had. I know that they went on vacation. Right? Like, I know all these things, and it's hard for me to let go of that aspect. And I know you could probably do it, better with, personalization and stuff like that. But I think that part of my business is what I really cherish the most. When I started out, and I hired a marketing team, they said, "Oh, well, why don't you lower your prices and just increase your volume?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I would rather lose every single dollar that I have spent on this business, lock the doors, walk away, and just like throw all the money out than build a business that's on volume, and lack of patient care, right? Like that's not what I'm here to do. So I think that aspect of my business, I again, I really value and cherish, and I really value the relationship that I have with my patients. Again, like I said, I know when they're getting married, when, they go on vacation, when they have bad things happen in their lives, and even if they stop being patients of mine, and like for example, I had a patient of mine that had a bad medical complication, not with me, just medically. And so I still like, she's not a patient of mine anymore because of that, but I still text her every once in a while. And I'm like, hey, just, checking in because I care, because I want to know that she's okay and that she's getting better, right? So I think that part of my business is unique in that, especially places that maybe are bigger or more automated, there's just less of a personal touch. And not that it's bad, right? Because I'm sure that as I grow, it's going to be hard for me to do all of this manually, right? But I'm still trying to hold on to that.
Right. I feel you. And, I always say we're in the people business, and you could automate certain things, but at the end of the day, especially as a provider, especially with your background, being, patient first, I don't think you should let that go, that part. I don't think you should.
Right.
I think you could probably use a little bit of automation at the front for sure, and maybe follow
Yes.
up. But,
Yes.
in the long run, you need to be that person. And
Yes.
you're going to get rewarded for that, down the line. And people are going to know that. They're going to feel it. Um,
Hmm.
that's the difference between a provider owning a med spa and a business person owning a med spa that has providers. We see a huge shift as well in that. And unfortunately, you do end up kind of wearing all the hats. But yeah, it's a keep that part alive because it's special and unique for sure. So.
I agree.
You would say you had talked a little bit about membership models to kind of help with
Hmm.
client loyalty, obviously predictable revenue. We're big on that. We love the membership model going forward. It seems to really resonate with people, and it also kind of allows the client to be a part of something that they know they're going to get hyper value out of. So could you walk us through kind of how you've structured it and what's working well, and to kind of give advice to those that are wanting to implement that?
Yeah, of course. So right now I have two membership models in my business. One is for IV vitamin therapy, one is for Botox. And I structured it on tiers. So obviously lower tiers, lower amount of services per month. But it also comes with percentages off. Obviously, the higher the tier, the higher the percentage off. But they get like a certain amount added into their like bank, with the product every month. Or like for the IVs, it's like one or two a month, depending on the tier, right? So interestingly enough, I just decided to send out a survey to all of my patients, about the business, because I really wanted to know, okay, maybe like, I should be offering things that they want that I'm not, or maybe, there's certain aspects of the business that they don't like that I need to improve on. So I did like a raffle entry, for a survey. And then I asked like a bunch of questions that I wanted answered. And I did ask, if there were any like memberships or things like that that they would want in the business. And I've been thinking about this one for a while actually, but just a straight on banking membership, like financial. So $25 a month, $50 a month, 75, and it just goes to their wallet, right? Like, just like your Hulu membership, Netflix membership, like you don't really think about it and it just goes. And then all of a sudden you have $500 and that's
Yes.
exciting, right? So, yeah, so that one I'm going to start this month. And then for like the higher numbers, I'm going to add like, some skincare or maybe a percentage off of skincare, just to incentivize them obviously to spend more. Um, but, I think those are probably helpful business wise, right? Because you have like some cash flow coming in. But also, right, like it helps bring people back because if they're spending money, they're going to come back and spend that money. They're not just going to leave it in their account. So I'm hoping that, one, that will help with patient satisfaction, but also help me cover my bills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, the main
Yeah,
goal is to, keep the patients you do have. Obviously acquire new ones,
exactly.
but absolutely. That's the key.
Yes,
Well, I don't want to
exactly.
leave out the fact you are not just a business owner. You are also a professor, a mom of two,
Yes.
and someone that's obviously building this practice on your own. So, for all the other provider mamas and business owner mamas out there, they're doing more than just showing up at work. How has that kind of shaped the way, that you're showing up for your patients, for your team, and how you're kind of viewing business as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think as moms, we are good at multitasking, right? So, I think most moms could be phenomenal entrepreneurs and CEOs. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, it's obviously very difficult. So I work at two universities part-time as a professor. I was actually grading papers right before I answered or I got on this podcast. But um, really, I think it has, um, you definitely have to shift and time block your time because I'm always behind. I have so much work to do and I'm always behind. So, I work pretty much constantly, unless I'm feeding my children, taking care of my children. But you also have to carve out time to be present with your family. Otherwise, what am I doing all of this for? It's not worth it. So I really try, to make sure that during the week, right, I'm putting my kids to bed, like I'm taking them to school, and I'm there for dinner or bedtime, and regardless of what's going on in my business or with teaching, I have that time with them. And funny enough, my 5-year-old, I think it was a few months ago, I was putting her to sleep and she told me something about she wanted to be a mom. And I said, well, why do you want to be a mom? And she says, because moms work hard and they cook hard. And I said, oh,
Oh,
okay. Well, maybe I'm setting a good example for my
of
daughter.
course you are. That is so amazing.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
watching us for sure.
So, yes, exactly. So, yeah. So, I mean, I hope that because there are days where, I mean, I'm tired all the time, but there are days where I feel so overwhelmed by the amount of work that I have to do, that I just, don't feel like doing it. And so sometimes I'm like, is it worth it? Like I'm spending time away from my kids. But then there are like little moments, right, where I think, okay, like, I'm setting a good example, like it's gonna work out, it's gonna be okay. So really, I mean, I think as moms, we always have mom guilt regardless of what we're doing. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess we just have to accept it.
for sure. Yep, it is
Yeah.
absolutely, the mom guilt is real. You know,
Yes,
I
it
can't do that
is.
right
It
now.
is.
Give mommy a moment or mommy's tired.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
give me a break.
But I will say I have seen, and again, just from, I feel like as a business owner, and again, I'm only a year and a half in, so I could be wrong. But as a business owner, it's never ending, right? Like
Mhm.
even if I get to a point where I'm paying myself and my business is doing well, right? Like as a business owner, you're always shifting strategies. You're always like, okay, well, what can I do next, right? There's never like a calm where you're just like a business owner, and I mean, unless someone's running the business for you, right? And you're just kind of like an owner. You're not actually in the business running it. So to me, right, like that growth, of saying, okay, well, if I fail at something, that's a learning experience. It's not a failure. Um, and trying to teach that to my children, I think is very valuable. And I actually I'm reading a book, and one of the lines in it, it's a fiction book, but it's about a professional tennis player who, like retired and wants to go back to like winning, Wimbledon. And her dad is her coach, and he was like, you are not the player that you will become. Like today, you are not the player that you will become. And that really like resonated with me because I'm not the business owner today that I will become. And so I think knowing that is like very powerful.
That's huge. I love that.
Yeah.
I will have to get that
Yeah.
recommendation from you after because that seems like
Yes.
a great philosophy all around, in many areas of
Yes,
business and
absolutely.
life and everything. So
Mhm.
that's amazing for sure. Well, for the listeners that are just opening their doors, like you, maybe working long hours, juggling family, figuring out cash flow, what would be like one piece of advice that you would give them from your own experience?
Um, yeah, I think really, like time management and priority is like, I think one of the reasons that I have been somewhat successful, um, is right. Like I'm behind on certain things, but I'm not behind on the things that matter. Right. So making, right. Like patient care is first, right? Like if I don't have patient care, I have nothing. If I don't do appointments, I have no cash flow, right? So like prioritizing those things over, let's say, bookkeeping, right, which is also important. But if I have to see patients and do patient care and patient follow up, that's going to be prioritized over bookkeeping because that's right, like that's what brings me in money, and that's what's going to bring me in referrals, and that's what's going to bring me in business. So yeah, so I think kind of really focusing on what is important for the business. And then also knowing how to scale the business. And that's probably more your, front. But when I'm at a point where I feel like my business can grow exponentially, but I can't do it all myself, right? So now I'm at a point where I feel like I need to hire and delegate and have staff that can do some of these things for me so I can do the things that other people can't, which is networking, right? Like in the injection aspect, right? Like all these things. But maybe having someone take part of the admin work so that I can focus on other things to grow my business because my business can't grow if I'm doing a million things. I can't focus on the things that grow the business.
Absolutely. Yeah. We we meet them all the time, business owners that are just
Yes.
literally doing absolutely everything. And it does come to a point where it's hurting more than helping. So
Right.
yeah, kudos to knowing when that time is and to wave that mini
Yeah.
little white flag and ask for help. And that's okay too. And
Yeah.
we see that more often than not when people have kind of waited maybe a little too long, and they're starting to tread
Mhm.
water, hopefully not drowning, but being able to be like, oh wow, there's some holes in the boat that we need someone to plug. So that's good.
Yes,
That's good.
absolutely.
Well, Tal, thank you so much for kind of opening up and being super honest, about the beginning stages of entrepreneurship and med spa ownership. It's a
Of
scary
course.
road in the beginning, but you seem to be doing really well. Your
Oh,
med spa is
thank
up and
you.
running. It's got a great unique aspect to it. And you're doing it with heart and soul to your patients, and that's what this whole entire business is about. Being able to provide healthy, good standing services, but at the same time making sure that everybody's treated quality, not so much quantity. So thank
I
you.
agree. Thank
And
you.
for everybody tuning in to the Aesthetic and Wellness Edge, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this conversation with somebody who needs to hear it. And until next time, we will see you on the next episode.